Okay, let's start. So, any
Any
questions from
questions
the
from the
last
last
session or a few
session or
sessions prior to that? As usual, don't answer all at once. Okay. Anyone have anyone do their homework? I'd like to ask that question. The homework was, as is every week, it's the same homework to do to meditate, to try the meditation that we've been working on with counting. And also the second part of the homework was, and actually the grade for that is if you meditate once a day, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, doesn't really matter, you get an A, regardless of how the meditation went. And if you meditate twice a day, then you get an A plus. Those are the grades. There's no other grades. And the second part of the homework was anyone use any of their breathing tools during the day when some kind of upset, annoyance, anger, irritation comes up. So that's the homework. Anyone have any experiences that you want to share? Okay,
I,
go ahead, you.
I
Hi.
meditate, pretty much 30 minutes a day, sometimes 40, sometimes 20, but usually 30. And I have not used the breathing, but I feel much more kind of aware of my surroundings and my place in my surroundings due to the due to your book and Buddhism.
So
So
it's helped raise your awareness and your motivation.
yes.
That's good. That's great. What do you do during the day because we're all humans, if some kind of annoyance or irritation or something happens that doesn't go exactly the way you, Stone, would like it to go?
Well,
Never happened. Never happens,
that's
right?
the
You?
entire day, isn't it? Um, the two mantras I carry around that I got, I think, from your first book, but for the karma, is do no harm and what goes around comes around. And I try and do that. I read in your chapter and in I get the last chapter of your example of the supermarket and somebody cuts in front of you or whatever, and you thank them for giving you the opportunity to learn more about yourself or more about. I thought it was just spot on. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when you and I had talked about that actually. Yeah, that's always a good one. Is
Yeah.
just to flip it totally 180 degrees the other way, which instead of that son of a gun, I can't believe he did that. It's like, oh, great. Opportunity. Thank you very much. Opportunity to practice. And the story, I don't think I put this in the book or any of the books, but is, they interviewed the Dalai Lama. I don't know if I told you the story yet, you. Uh, 20, 30 years ago. And, when the Dalai Lama was discovered at the age of 3 or 4 and went through, a lot of training with mentors and tutors and all kinds of training, of course, to become the Dalai Lama. And then at the age of whatever, 50, 60, 70, they interviewed him and one of the interviewers said, who is your best teacher? And without losing a beat, he said, oh, the Chinese government. Meaning he got the greatest teachings from them because he gets a chance to practice. And similarly, when people, I'm going to go digress just a little bit, but we're talking about the Dalai Lama here. When people ask him about, how does he feel about dying? Because as you know, although we haven't gotten to it yet, although if you read the book, you have, about how the Tibetan Buddhists view and train for death and hopefully an auspicious rebirth. So there's a large emphasis placed upon that. And we asked the Dalai Lama about he goes, I feel a little bit excited by it because he'll get a chance to practice everything that he's been, of course, training himself for.
Yeah.
I don't want to digress too much. Good. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that, you. Everyone, by the way, you gets $10 every time he shares something, so I just thought I'd throw that in there. Try to motivate more interaction. Uh, Good. So we also added something to the meditation practice, which we talked about adding some kind of aspiration, some kind of positive statement that you would take 5 or 7 seconds out of your busy day before you meditate, to show appreciation or gratitude to something, just to kind of take ourselves out of this whole selfish, self-centered mentality that we have all day long about me, I. One of the most popular phrases in Tibetan Buddhism, before you can make up your own, but one of the most popular ones is, may all beings be happy.
Hmm.
That takes about 3 seconds. If you want to get fancier, then there's four of them. It's called the four immeasurables. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. I'm sure it's in the book somewhere. May all beings rejoice in in the joy of others, and may all beings be free from greed and hatred. So that 10, 12 seconds, and saying that, of course, with intention beforehand sets the tone, of course, for the meditation, and takes us out of our me, I, self-centeredness, which, as we discussed last week, creates negative karma. So when we look at our meditation, our motivation for speech, our motivation for physical action, our motivation for thought, and we say, why did I think that? What's my motivation about thinking about that for about Susie or Sally or whomever? Oh, it was self-centered. Boom, negative karma. Or, oh, I really feel I should help her. Oh, positive karma. So, so anything we can do to dissipate, remove that whole self-centered mentality which we've grown up with is positive karma. So that's why we can add those aspirations before we meditate. And guess what? And we talked briefly about it last week. I don't know if we'll talk about it this week, but that aspiration can actually help others as well, even if they're 10,000 miles away. And we talked a little bit about how that mechanism works, but I don't want to digress. I don't even think we talk about that in the book. So we get to set the tone and the seeds for open-mindedness, for the opposite of self-centeredness, and it creates good karma with that kind of aspiration. And then after the meditation, you can add another 10, 15 seconds, which is something along the lines of, may the merit from this meditation go to reduce suffering. So that was probably 5 seconds. I'm just trying to show how simple, easy it is to create good karma, to retrain your state of mind away from the me, I, and enhance your meditation. So beforehand, we have aspiration, gratitude, and afterwards, we can dedicate the merit that we've earned to someone other than ourselves. It could be someone very specific. Susie's in the hospital. May I dedicate the merit from this meditation to help Susie heal. Or a group of people, help the people in the Middle East, or what have you. So, so we're adding that onto our meditation 5 to 7 seconds before. We talked about that already. We'll add some kind of aspiration, and then afterwards you can dedicate the merit. Okay, I'm going to recap everything we've done in the last 4 or 5 sessions, kind of, in the next 3 minutes. That's why it's a short book. Any questions on anything I have touched upon, the royal we have touched upon? All perfectly clear. Okay, so recap. Holding on to fixed permanent views of ourselves, others, places, things, people, whatever, causes suffering. Actually, I could stop right there. That's the whole story.
Hmm.
Okay. And once we learn how to unwind that, retrain ourselves, and why do we have these fixed permanent views of ourselves and others and people, places, things? Because that's how we trained ourselves to survive growing up as a child, becoming a young adult, and of course through adulthood, with all these requirements that we set for ourselves. An example, my favorite example is be on time. I was always taught be on time. That's where it became a requirement. The fact of the matter is, that's probably meaningless and an illusion that it's important to be on time. I'm going to try to be on time, but if I'm not on time or someone else is not on time, that's not a good place for me to get upset. So yeah, let's be on time. But if I'm not on time, that's okay, not a big deal. but it can be a big deal for some of us. Well, if we go into the airport, it's important. Well, my wife said I got on time. She wasn't on time. And then what, the 3 minutes is late, is that on time? Well, for me, it is. For, we get into this whole world of messiness or illusion, and yet we put so much effort into be fair. Everyone should be fair. I should be fair. Be respectful. Well, the world doesn't work that way. So we have all these requirements that we've set up. You can make your list of requirements. I should be a financially successful businessman. I am a great interior decorator until someone criticizes you, and then we get all huffy puffy. So there's a whole list of requirements. Each one of us has different list of requirements. We established two lists. One list was as a child growing up. What did we require? What did we train ourselves through our family, our culture, our TV, our friends, our schooling, and then as an adult? Now, there's nothing wrong with having a healthy dose of confidence. We just don't want to overdose. Take it to the limit. That's where it becomes an unhealthy, fixed, permanent view, and we start looking at things as facts. Fact, I'm an on-time person. Oh, really? Good luck with that. So, understanding this together with the daily meditation and the during the day use of our tools, you has a couple of mantras that helps liberate us. So just sitting to meditate 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes a day, that's great. Twice a day, it's even better. That is not enough. The world is too toxic. Short recap, and we're too toxic. We're part of the world. Short recap of karma. Karma literally means action. It can refer to actions of the body, actions of the speech, talking, actions of mind, thoughts. It's known as the law of cause and effect. It's based on our intention or motivation, not based on what you do. It's your intention and motivation. Yeah, I gave $5 million to that university over there. I can make sure when you put the name of my name up there on the front door, it's 25-point font. Okay. Well, where's your motivation there? And it's usually mixed. Yeah, I do want to help those people, but I want to get credit too. So by holding on to that sense of self, negative karma. So we look at our motivation. Negative karma arises from the habituation of the stories we tell ourselves, which we hold on to so dearly about who we are. That's just the way things are. It's a fact. Well, there's a lot more opinions than facts, but we view the world as factual and how we view ourselves. And then we had a little commercial last week. Those of you who missed the commercial, here's the commercial again, which is the Karma book. It's another book that I wrote together with Lama Lanang Rinpoche. We go into much more detail about karma. So yeah, we go through life now checking our motivation. That's what we do. What's the motivation behind that thought? What's the motivation behind me saying that? What's the motivation behind my actions? And then you can A, change your motivation or change what you're going to say, do, or think. Good news, these tendencies can be changed. How? Meditation, ethical conduct, awareness, all the tools that we use during the day. And it changes. This process, transformation changes. Sometimes you see a change over a day or two. Sometimes it takes months or years. Okay, we talked about meditation, how to do it. We'll practice again a little bit later today. And there are three ways to improve the meditation. One is raise our motivation. If you find you're hitting a plateau, you're not making progress, then raise your motivation. How important is it to you? The second thing is just do it more often. The third way to improve your meditation is just increase the length. You want to really get up to a minimum of 20 minutes. Why? Because it usually takes people 14, 15 minutes just to get rid of the junk that's running around out there. Usually by minute 16, 17, things calm down a little bit, sometimes sooner. Um, Now, how do we set ourselves up for success? We didn't really talk so much about that. Or do we just close our eyes and start meditating? Well, we could do that. Or before we go gardening, if that's your meditation, or swimming, or Tai Chi, there's lots of different ways to meditate. Doesn't have to be sitting there on a cushion. So how do we set ourselves up for success? Well, how do you set the tone? Well, we talked about aspiration. Great. We talked about before and after. Wonderful. Make sure when you sit down, your area is clean, no clutter. If there's a lot of clutter, you're sitting at my desk to meditate, I got papers all over the place. Guess what? That's more likely to be in my mind. Maybe you could, if you're a Buddhist, you could have some nice Buddhas. If you want a cross or Jesus Christ or whatever helps you lift up your state of mind, that could be surrounding you, no problem. Be aware of your time of day. Some people do better in the morning versus the evening. After immediately after eating is not really good because then your stomach can make sounds, things like that. So good experiment for yourself. Okay, tools to change our that's the end of my recap. So tools to change our habits. That's one of the chapters for this week. We have these tools because meditation is not enough, even if you meditate all day. Story that is probably a Zen story. I don't think it's in the book, where a monk has anger. He's got anger problems. And so the teacher says, you gotta go back up to the monastery. Go back up the mountain to the seclusion of the monastery. Don't come down until you have your anger problem solved. So he's up there for years and years meditating, and, and then he says, I think I'm good. And he starts coming down the mountain. And as he starts coming down the mountain, he sees a shepherd and his flock crossing the road in front of him. And one of the sheep, as he steps down onto the rock or the stone shoots up and hits him in the forehead. Guy totally loses it, starts yelling and screaming at the shepherd, and then stops himself and says, not good. Goes back up the mountain. Another few years, you already know where the story's going. 3 years later, comes back down. Same thing happens, goes back up, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, what the Buddhist stories don't end where you think they're going to end. Um, so what do we learn from that? We learned from that when the food is good and the sun is shining, everyone's a good spiritual practitioner. Everyone's a good Buddhist. Same thing here. We have to be using these tools to change our habits when the rubber hits the road, which is I'm out there in the day working, interacting with people, on the phone, in traffic. That's why we need these tools. Because, yeah, anyone can go up to a monastery anywhere or sit in the comfort of their own home and have a great meditation. Sure, great. And we should do that. But really, we need to practice when we're not formally meditating. Even at night, you can meditate, even while you're sleeping. I won't get into that, but that's what some of us do, is we have um, we can practice as we're going to sleep, while we're sleeping, and when we wake up in the morning, just it's really 24/7. It's up to you. So these tools, and I'll go through some of them briefly, are for the times of day that we are not meditating. So first is we have to understand why we feel the way we do when something goes wrong or doesn't meet our expectation. And that's why we have these requirements to kind of get us in tune with why did I get so angry about that? So we understand how we feel. And then we can use one of these tools to break the habit. One of the reasons, one of the many reasons that we meditate in the morning or whenever, once or twice a day, is because that gives you the awareness, the sensitivity of your thoughts and understanding your motivation. You don't meditate, people don't meditate, they have no idea. There's plenty of people walking around out there just angry. They have no clue that they're angry, but they're angry. And yeah, not to get into politics or anything, but you also see some politicians, they walk around with this very angry, stern face. They don't even know they're angry. So we want to have that such sensitivity that we're aware when we're angry, annoyed, irritated, what have you, because we want to change it. We don't want to live in those states of mind. So the first step is understand, be aware, be sensitive to what you're feeling. Then we can use the break. Then we can use some of the tools there. Observe the breath. That's the simplest. It's free. You don't need anything, special tools. And just observe your breath. You can take 5 breaths, 10 breaths, slow breaths. If you're feeling stress in certain areas, then you can actually breathe slowly in and out of those areas. No problem. You can do it while you're driving. You could say a mantra. Pick one of your favorites, make up your own. You can use a Buddhist mantra. You can use a Christian mantra. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter. Um, you can express gratitude. as you mentioned, or you can express gratitude, which is to show appreciation for, oh, thank you. I'm so glad that person got in front of me because now it's an opportunity for me. You can have a short conversation with yourself. And then some of the phrases that we used in the book, I just don't know the future. That's when you're busy thinking about, well, what'll happen next year and this year? I may not have this, I will have that. Like you're going way off into the future. You can just remind yourself, I just don't know the future. And then a phrase that Lama Lanang says quite often is the past is history, the future is mystery, the present moment is a gift. And you can just say it over and over and over all day long. And that's a great reminder. And then a couple of Zen sayings we have in there, not happening now, not happening now, and not always so. And then there's the story somewhere in the book about the Zen farmer. I won't tell the story now, but the Zen farmer who, the horses leave the barn. They can't bring in the harvest. Then they find more horses. They can bring in, and every step of the way, something good happens, something bad happens, good, bad, good, bad. And his response is, good luck, bad luck, maybe. So it's a great phrase because you just don't know. Oh my God, we were late. We left the house 5 minutes later and I'm all pissed off and angry and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, guess what? Maybe I left 5 minutes earlier. I might have gotten into a car accident. You just don't know. So a great mantra is good luck, bad luck, maybe. And then pick one or two or three of these tools and use them. See whichever one resonates with you. So here's my question. And I think I know the answers in the book. Why do these tools work? And what does it mean for a tool to work? What are your thoughts on that? Why do these tools work? Anyone?
Because we're making them work. Because we use our mind. Our mind is what screws us up. And if we use our mind, we can undo what we've done with our minds to get in our way
And how does it work on the mind?
by repetition and by interfacing with the negative that's there and challenging it.
Absolutely. And so we're challenging it. What else? What else? Why else does it work? Because I can challenge. Yeah, go ahead, Dayton. Go ahead.
I think it takes you out of if we live in our little self-centered world that we've all created, it takes us out of our self-centered world when we're thinking about things like the four immeasurables or the dedication of merit, or some of the other tools. It's, it's, it, it is helping us understand that we're not separate from others. It is helping us understand that our views are not fixed, not permanent, not correct. There's many ways to look at it. And I've been looking at it as it helps us to understand what I've grown attached to. I hope not in a negative way on the attachment side, but this understanding of the second arrow, that things can happen in life. But our response to it is when we react negatively, it's because we wanted something else. And then we start poking ourselves with that second arrow. And why is it that we're doing that? And I think these tools help us to understand and then get out of why are we poking ourselves with the second arrow.
Yeah, wow, beautifully stated. Thank you. Yeah, we're basically trying to break the habit. What is the habit? The habit is to react with our negative anger, irritation, annoyance, whatever other list we want to add to. That is what we're breaking that reaction. So here's probably one of the most important pages in the book, and it'll come up takes about 30 seconds or so, on why these simple techniques work over time. And those of you that have the book, till it comes up, I'm on page 77 of the book. Why do these simple techniques work over time? So many reasons. But with all of these antidotes, by coming into the present moment, we break the habitual storytelling. Very simple. So if you feel yourself, say you don't want to do any of this fancy stuff, mantras, whatever, but but you're feeling angry or something like that. Even simply just, I'm not recommending this, it could work, just pinching yourself
Hmm.
over here or pinching yourself. That in and of itself will allow you to come into the present moment and break the habitual storytelling. The reason I don't necessarily recommend that is because there's much more productive, meaningful, efficient ways to break the habit. But bottom line is, by coming into the present moment, we break the habitual storytelling. Okay? We start to weaken those stories that all of our lives we've been using to justify and judge ourselves. So we're weakening it. Why do we have to weaken it? Because if it was a simple thing, once and you're done, great, we'd all be enlightened. But it's taken us 30, 40, 50, 60 years to create these permanent senses of self and other that it takes a while. So we weaken them. We break our reaction. We bring the mind body together into the present moment. When we observe our breath, that helps us because when the breath is calm, the mind becomes calm. When the mind is calm, the breath can become calm. So our body starts to learn that, oh, those are just thoughts. Everything's really okay here. Not a big deal. 99.9% of the cases. Um, and we start to gain confidence, which is helpful because we live in a lot of fear and anxiety. So as we do this over and over and over again, and the negative reaction starts to fade and weaken, that builds confidence. And we start to understand, it's just a thought, just some jerk over there pulled in front of me. Okay, no problem. It starts to fade, becomes ephemeral. So these are all reasons why these simple techniques work. Keywords here, over time. So, and the under the infrastructure, the background, the foundation is that daily meditation practice of some kind. Daily, consistent, could be sitting, could be moving, whatever works for you. Can be 5 minutes, great. The more the better, but you still get an A if you only do 5 minutes. Thoughts? Yeah, go ahead, you.
Um, I think I've asked this before, but you've recommended twice a day. I usually only do once a day. Is there really a benefit in twice a day? I mean, if I did 15 minutes twice a day versus 30 minutes once a day, what would you say?
I would say that you're better off doing 15 minutes twice a day than 30 minutes once a day. Or I would say you're probably better off doing 20 minutes twice a day.
And why is that?
You'll get more benefit. And okay, so without getting into the minutes, um, you get more benefit twice a day than once a day for sure. A lot more than just 1 + 1 = 2. When you meditate twice a day, 1 + 1, the benefit of 1 + 1 is actually 3. So it's kind of like, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to work out. And I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go to the gym once a month to get my workout in. Is there benefit there? Absolutely. Do I get an A? Absolutely. But I'm not going to go again for another month. So by the time I go again for another month, it's like same thing here. You want to, so that's my point.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Um, sorry, does someone else have a question? I didn't see if anyone's hands are up. No. Okay. So now's a good time. Anytime's a good time to do our 5-minute meditation, where I will walk you through the directions. So the directions are very simple. I'll give you the directions now, and then I'll walk us through it with our eyes closed. So we're just going to be observing our breath for about 5 or 6 minutes. We're not going to change or modify it in any way, shape, or form. We're simply going to observe the air that is passing through our nostrils. And after we observe an inhale and an exhale, we're going to say in our mind the number 1. And then there's a pause, and then inhale, exhale, we're going to say the number 2. Inhale, exhale, say the number 3, and you make your way up to 10. You get to 10, you go back to 1. It's a game. It's very simple. There's no pressure. There's no effort, expectation to do it right or perfectly. Those words are meaningless. And let's say you get up to 3 and you find yourself, you're thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow or why this is taking so long. No problem. The moment you observe you've been distracted, just go back to 1. Fall asleep, you wake up, go back to 1. Not a problem. And that's the game we're going to play. Okay, those are the directions. So now we're going to sit nice and tall in our chair. Close your eyes. You're going to feel really tall and very alert and very relaxed. And just take a look at your face for a moment. Just feel your face and see if there's any way you need to release any of the facial muscles. Take a look at one more area, maybe our shoulders. See if those can release a little bit. And now you can just start to observe your breath. The breaths that's keeping you alive. And you'll see the air as it passes through your nostrils. You'll notice there's an inhale, an exhale, and then a pause. So you'll count the number starting with 1 after an exhale. Observe the breath until you finish the next one, and then you'll count the number 2. Some of the breaths are long, some are short, some are shallow, some are deep. We're just going to observe. And if you get to 10, go back to 1. If you get distracted somewhere along the way, let's go back to 1 and just enjoy. And I'll watch the clock, and I'll be speaking again in about 5 or 6 minutes. Okay, slowly open your eyes. Come back into the room. Okay. So that's what we can do. If you have your own meditation practice, then use it, no problem. If you don't, or you're looking for one, this is a great way to start. Um, how'd that go? Anyone want to share how that went? Hello.
I thought it went great. Very
Good,
calming, relaxing, centering.
good. There are some advantages to doing short meditations like that throughout the day. Um, because you know it's only 5 minutes, usually we just get on it right away. When I'm going to meditate half hour, 45 minutes, sometimes we just get a little sloppy and a little bit, well, I'll get to it. I'll get my mind will calm down a little. Oh, I only have 5 minutes, or sometimes you could do a 1 minute meditation. So that shouldn't replace your morning or evening meditation, but those types of short meditations sometimes can be very motivating. Um, it creates a little bit of a sense of urgency. Good. Thank you, Sam. Any other thoughts, comments, questions on anything?
Morty, can I ask a question?
Of course. Hi, Dayton. Go ahead.
Hey, it has to do with the tools and the that great kind of list of tools that we had, and then in your follow-on chapter, it was in pages 82 and 83. The I forgot about this framework, but the framework of the three poisons, which I rather like a great deal because as I'm thinking about those things that are irritants to me or get under my skin and like why am I doing that to myself? Many things seem to line up into those three categories, the three poisons.
Mhm.
And so the question I guess I'm asking, and I have been trying to, in my own handwriting, impose a framework. Do the tools, do the specific tools that were outlined, that you just outlined and are in the book, do they somehow line up against those three poisons? And I'm because I have an analytical mind, so I'm trying to impose a framework on getting everything organized that is just my own affliction. But your thoughts on that, please.
My answer is I hope so.
Okay.
Can you,
Yeah.
Dayton, can you say what page you're on with the three poisons?
Yeah, if you go to page 82, right at the bottom, the last paragraph says the three poisons that are the sources of our negative states of mind are greed or lust, hatred slash anger, delusion, and ignorance. And then on the next page on 83, it's brilliant. It's like, and the antidotes for these negative qualities are, for greed, there's generosity, for hatred, there's loving kindness, for ignorance, there's wisdom. And so to me, I'm like, great, I've got my poisons, I've got my antidotes, and now I've tried to, on a piece of paper, kind of map out what are the tools that we went through that lay out underneath each of those antidotes. So as I am feeling that irritant, frustration, whatever it might be, and I'm able to kind of localize, oh, I'm feeling angry about something. The antidote's loving kindness. Oh, maybe focus on a loving kindness meditation or a forgiveness meditation or the what is it, the four immeasurables prayer. I'm trying to get more specific and directive on when to deploy which tool against which poison. That may be futile. I'm not sure.
No, that's spot on. So, and Tibetan Buddhism is well known for its identifying very, very specifically what the issue is and
Oh,
what
nice.
what the antidote is. And this is just an example of that. So Tibetan
Awesome.
Buddhism has all these lists of everything, and there's some lists there. So let's I'm driving down the road, guy or gal cuts in front of me, and and I'm in a rush as usual, and I just get all angry. Okay, what's going on there? Well, that's not gonna fall under greed. It's not gonna fall. It could fall under ignorance. Almost everything falls under ignorance. this ignorance of the fact that we're all connected, the fact that it's non-dual sensitivity, things like that could also fall under hatred, depending upon how angry I get, things like that. So not almost every single upset that we experience will fall into one of those three categories.
Okay.
And instead of letting ourselves go on and on and on and continuing to get pissed off when someone cuts me off or someone's late or I'm late or what have you, we want to break that habit. And these antidotes will come up eventually naturally
Mm,
by starting to use some of the tools. Because what do the tools do? They cut it off at the head very
mhm,
quickly if as soon as you're aware that you're feeling a certain way, irritated, annoyed. And then you can look on your requirements list and you can say, oh, that's because when I was growing up, this is how I was trained. Okay, got it. And then you can do your breathing. Got it. So all that's doing is starting to break that habit. And then you can start looking at these three categorizations and say, oh, clearly I was ignorant that that person, maybe that person's on their way to the hospital. Or how would I feel if that was my father driving the car and someone else, who's an old guy, and someone else cut. It's like, so there's ways to start becoming wiser and not be so ignorant. Ignorance is synonymous with being self-centered,
mm.
with things being fixed and permanent. So all these three poisons and their antidotes work very well with all of the tools.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Any other
So
thoughts, comments, or questions on? Yeah, go ahead.
I have a thought. It seems like the the thing that sort of underlies or um, the three poisons is awareness of things happening. That is that sort of, to me, that's one of the things that meditation has helped me try to recognize when those poisons kind of creep into our lives. But that notion of awareness in the moment seems to be the tool that kind of helps get to that point of knowing how to deal with the poisons.
Yeah, absolutely. And for some people, it actually can be very difficult, which is, I've taught a lot of people how to meditate, and there, some people, that level of sensitivity and openness and awareness of their mind and how out of control it is can be very, very difficult. So if you have that difficulty, then absolutely you should talk to a teacher for sure. If you can't figure a way out of it, which is very difficult. Yeah. So that's all I want to say about that. Is this meditation in some sense can be for everyone, but not necessarily because of that level of sensitivity that we start to get.
Can I
Good.
jump in with one more thing,
Of
Marty?
course, of course.
So that was such a great question of like, hey, what underlies everything? And I was the guy who brought up the craziness of the getting cut off in traffic in
Right,
California at the exit and the airports and
right.
the thing. And I love the second arrow concept. And so I was asking myself, my mantra this week was, so what? And I spent some time thinking about it, and I realized for everybody that I get completely worked up over that cut in front of me pulling off on an exit, I never missed an exit. And for everybody that ever cut in front of me waiting to get on an airplane for the millions of miles I've flown around the world, I never missed a plane because somebody cut in front of me, and I never lost my luggage because somebody cut in front of me. And so I was just making that's a narrative that I was making up for myself that literally, as I really analytically looked at it, it was meaningless. It didn't serve me or anything. It just got me all torqued up. And so my question I keep asking myself when I find something that's an irritant, my first question now is, so what? Because it is this construct that I created for myself that isn't particularly useful for me as I seek happiness and calmness and, joy in my life.
Yeah, no, great. Thank you. And as we're growing up, we're taught that typically, to show up on time, be fair, be respectful, don't cut in front of others, blah, 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 by, school, teachers, parents, what have you. And some of us take it on very, very seriously.
Hmm.
And when it's trampled on or violated by ourselves or others, it's a very big upset. And
Hmm.
now we've created a habit of it of 40, 50, 60, whatever it is, years of that mentality. And it's not easy to break. So
Yeah.
but we start, and or as Pema Chodron would say, to start where you are,
Mhm.
and then over time it weakens. So, but at least we don't have to live in that mentality. So the sooner you
Right.
catch it, the less time you have to spend being angry and annoyed. So there's a lot of value there. Um, it's a good segue into the chapter of Nirvana and Samsara, of those places. So where is Nirvana and Samsara? Because before class I went out to Google Maps. I couldn't find them. Couldn't find them. So I'm assuming Google Maps is not up to date. So where is Nirvana and Samsara? What state is it in? What country is it in? Is it India somewhere? Anyone? Ah, everyone's pointing to their head. Yeah. So Samsara is living in a world where we are angry, attached, ignorant, all those three poisons. So when we or someone else is living in those worlds, we just say to ourselves, oh, yeah, that's samsara. That's me in samsara. And the other side of that coin is me or you in nirvana, which is not, oh, I won the lottery or the food's good and the sun is shining, but it's I'm in the present moment. That's nirvana, being in the present moment. Now, the present moment may be very sad and can be painful, as we know, but that's can actually be quite beautiful and quite poignant as well. So the samsara and the nirvana are all in our mind, and we get to decide. We get to decide where we want to live. And there's examples. There's a lot of people like to look at the worst case examples where, God forbid someone's dying from cancer. And you talk to doctors and they'll have patients that are just angry, annoyed, anxious, every step of the way. And I get it. We all get it. But then there are some patients who do their best to have a good state of mind. And it's not easy. And I'm not saying we can all do it. Maybe we can only do it for a minute here, a minute there. But that person is living in nirvana. So it's possible. It's not easy. I wouldn't have any expectation that we'd be that way, but that's how we're training ourselves so that we don't have to live in, really in a hell of some kind. Good. Okay. Um, so next week, we're going to talk a little bit about, let me see what's, oh yeah, next week is going to be chapters 14, 15, and 16. We'll talk a little bit about mantras and whatever, I don't remember the other chapters, what they are. And we have the same homework. Sound familiar? Which is try to meditate once a day. If you could do it twice a day, great. If you could do 5 minutes, great. If you could do more, that's great too. No expectations whatsoever. You do it, you get an A. You don't do it, you don't get a grade. And then do your best to observe when you're angry, annoyed, irritated, what have you, and what is the trigger behind it. Oh, she cut in front of me. Oh, she did. Oh, I did that. Sometimes the trigger is just some thought. You're going about your happy day, and then some thought pops into your mind about something that may or may not happen tomorrow or next week. And before you know it, you're sitting there a little nervous, anxious, or whatever. It doesn't have to be triggered by a person or a situation. We have these 50,000 thoughts a day, 40, whatever it is, 40,000 thoughts a day that we just think running around up there. So we get to observe that and we get to do our best to break the habit of reactivity. So that's our homework. Good. Any thoughts, comments, questions before I depart? When I say depart, I mean the Zoom call. I don't mean like depart. That's another old joke.
I have a comment.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
I really value and like the idea of nirvana being part of our ongoing life. The I think the concepts that I've heard about and read about are that nirvana, that we're working toward a state of nirvana that would be sort of an endpoint in terms of not an endpoint. Well, I guess an endpoint that it's not like going to heaven, but it's something that we're moving toward. Is the thought that we're moving toward that state of nirvana that we would be in for most of our kind of experience in life, or I'm a little confused about kind of,
You're in good company, Sam, because I'm confused too.
oh, okay.
So let's take a look at it. Let's say we're on our way to enlightenment and liberation because we're doing all these things. We're not perfect at it, but we're making a little progress here, a little progress there. Little by little, we start to uh, live in the moment. And the second arrow doesn't show up very much because we've retrained our mind. We're not living in the past. We're not living in the future. We're here in the moment. One of the byproducts of that is feeling joy for that moment, for oneself, and for others. So we get to live our lives, and that includes when, God forbid, I fall and I break my leg. I'm going to feel pain for sure, of course, but I don't have that second arrow anymore. So I can still be in the present moment and I can still be in a good state of mind. Not easy. I know very few people that can do it, but that's kind of where we're going. We're not looking for perfection here. I don't even know what that means. And that kind of mentality, as we practice and retrain our mind, goes from moment to moment until right before we die. So we could be living in that form or flavor of nirvana until the moment right before we die. One moment leads to the next moment. The moment after we die, we've trained ourselves so well that that can continue. Our consciousness continues into the afterlife. Not unlike before I go to sleep, I will say mantras. So I'm seeding, seeding, I'm seeding my sleep time with that mentality. If I wake up in the middle of the night, I have to go back to sleep, I say other mantras. I'm seeding that mentality so that by the time I wake up in the morning, hopefully, or have my dreams, same thing with the bardo, which we haven't talked about, which is so I die. Once again, I'm not paying attention to any of the second arrow. I've trained my mind to be calm, stable, almost joyful, sometimes very joyful. And now I'm in the bardo, I'm in the afterlife. That consciousness has been trained so well for many, 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 many years, maybe even lifetimes, that that continues on. And now, when it's time for a rebirth, I take that conscious with me. The only thing you can take in your life is your karma, synonymous with the words consciousness here. Those good habits, good karma, whatever you want to call it. So that continues on until, which we haven't talked about so much, but we can talk about it in that particular chapter, or you can just do a commercial now for Tibetan Book of the Dead for beginners. Um, but you don't have to be on that wheel of life and rebirth, life and rebirth. There's ways to get off that cycle. But it all starts with the retraining of our mind to live without that second arrow. Now, I don't even remember your question, Sam, so I don't even know if I answered it. But jump in here and
No, no, you did. That was a quite eloquent answer.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. All right. Very good. I'm glad that was helpful. Good. Any other comments, questions on any of this stuff? Okay. So, great. Thank you very much. Good to see everyone here, and see you guys next week.
Thank you, Marty.
Take care, guys. Thank you.